my favorite scene is you and Juliette Lewis's meeting scene. It was so complex. You guys you're opposite characters, obviously, but you are connected in some ways. How did you feel about that scene and working with Juliette?
Well, I love that scene. The actor in me wanted more of it because of my adoration of Juliette and her talent as an actor to actor. But I think in terms of our characters, less was more. So I equate it to like the Eye of a Storm. That scene is the most peaceful and truthful moment in the whole movie. But it's between the two characters who, are the polar opposites. But no, it was a complete joy.
All right, so I asked Peter the same question. Your scene where you meet Peter Dinklage for the first time was so nuanced, so well written, and so well performed. What was your feelings about that scene and working with Peter to capture your both characters?
It was one of those, I was telling him recently, not since I worked with Robert De Niro in Cape Fear, when we were both together, did I feel like it was so electric. There was so much tension, first of all, because our characters are both taking a breath in the middle of the movie, and there's all this danger, but also because Peter is such a heavyweight as a performer. It was really intense. So I'm glad people responded to it the way they do.
So what was your initial reaction when you first read the script to your story?
When I first read the script, I was really excited. I feel like oftentimes cowboys are the most aggressive dudes in the world, and I got to play a very sensitive cowboy, and for me that's a highlight.
You also had some darkness in you in the end, which I found interesting. So did you like the nuance of your character, that it wasn't totally good, but you also had some gray?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's got to adapt to the very brutal world that he's found himself in, and he does his best, but in the end it comes at a high price. It's tough.
All right, so what was it about the Thicket book and the initial material that made you want to tell this story?
The Thicket book. So, Joe Lansdale wrote a seminal novel. I wanted to take the tenets of that novel and sort of change them a little bit, to be honest with you. Originally, Cutthroat Bill was a man. One of the precepts for me doing the film was to actually turn Bill into a woman. It's a classic sort of Western road movie, but I wanted to give it a sort of contemporary feel.
And Peter Dinklage and Juliette Lewis are both amazing in the film. I watched it last night. How did you view their relationship, and they're kind of similar but different?
I think the thing about their relationship is they're sort of opposite sides of the same coin. Juliette is formidable in her way, and Peter is formidable in his way, and you just have this fantastic clash of characters.
I did love the scene where they first met, with him drinking whiskey. When he drank whiskey, and that was a great scene. How did you approach that scene to get that wonderful dynamic?
That day was only dedicated to that scene. We knew that when you had two icons, Juliette and Peter, undeniable iconic actors, that I framed it for them in such a way that they felt safe and that they could go wherever they wanted in the scene. You have to give the actors, especially world-class actors, the freedom to do what they need to do.
All right, so what was the most important part for you that they kept from the book? What was really pure for you? Listen, if this can get translated to a movie, it has to have this. I want this really feeling, theme kept.
It had to have the relationship between Dinklage and, the character Reginald, and his partner, the gravedigger, and Jack, who is the sort of the impetus for this whole thing going forward.
Yeah, I thought the dynamic between the three of them was amazing. Yeah, that was.
And that's one of the things I liked about it. I like where you're trying to put a family together, and that's what they're doing, really. And not consciously at first, but I think they're trying to sort of establish a family of choice.
Well, that's one of the themes of the movie, because ultimately we learned Dinklage, I don't want to give too much away, is really alone and wants family. Like he really, which is not typically your Old West. How was that? Was that important for you to make sure that got captured? Where?
Yeah, I didn't want it to be the loner, like they have. I wanted it to be somebody that was looking for what most people are looking for.
And I love Cutthroat Juliette Lewis, same thing. She also wanted family in her way too.
Right, and I think that's one of the interesting things. There's such different characters and they're opposing to one another, but at the center of it, they're looking for the same thing.
So what was it about the story in the initial book that made you want to come on board the project?
Oh, I think for us it's a compelling story and complex characters, and just something very unique when it comes to a Western. I think this is, it's more than a Western. It's a thriller. It's contemporary. It's exciting. Something we've never seen before.
All right, so I'm actually a very specific question. The scene where Peter Dinklage and Juliette Lewis first meet, what was your reaction when you first saw that scene and their performance?
You know, it's funny. I tell everyone that's actually one of my favorite scenes. And I want to make sure it got into the trailer, you know, because I couldn't stop laughing when I read it, and laughing because of the lines they deliver. And I couldn't stop, you know, feeling attracted to that scene when I first watched it because they just killed on the delivery, you know? And it's my favorite scene.
How did you feel about that scene?
I feel great, but I think that Mrs. Lewis is going to really impress me with her acting, and I think the role that she's playing, it's really surprise for me, and she did it so well.
Actually, I have a story about this. When we first met with Elliott for the project, right off the bat, he threw that twist because it was made for a man at first. And he said, you know, I think Cutthroat Bill should be a woman. And I was like, wow, I think you're right. And, you know, he just proved everyone he was right.
And she plays so well.
And she killed it.
Amazing.
She killed it, yeah.
And she wasn't totally evil. Like, she was a little opposite Peter Dinklage's coin, but she also sought family. So it was something she needed too.
I think that's part of the twist. You know, people expect to see a villain. That's what we're used to back in Western times, you know, with the outlaws. And there is something motherly about her character, you know, and I think that was the idea since the beginning.
Okay, so my first question is, when you first read the screenplay, what was it about the story and your character that says, I really want to play in this movie?
Right. I mean, the screenplay for this movie is brilliant. So it's just like you want to be a part of something that's really brilliant. So immediately thinking, yeah, amazing. They're not all good, these scripts that you get and stuff, and you know, this is a good one. So straight away you're going, this is good.
One of the things I liked about the movie is the characters are gray. Yes, I saw it last night. The characters are gray. Not everybody's necessarily perfectly good or perfectly bad. Was that something appealing to you, that each of the characters have their own little story?
Yes, and I think I'm one of the good ones. In essentially kind of a sort of a, you know, Cutthroat Bill, trying to keep Cutthroat Bill's psychopathicness at bay a little bit in some ways. So, yeah, I mean, we're the baddies, but we're not all that bad, or at least I amn't, I think. I don't know.
And I love the scenes with Juliette and you and the guys. How was working with Juliette?
Look, I'm a big fan. Juliette is an idol of mine. I don't have any idols. Juliette is one, and she's fantastic in it. So that was a real, you know, plus. I've worked with Elliott before, as I said, and he's been banging on about the Thicket for 10 years. And then I heard that Juliette's in it, so I'm going like, yeah, this is great. This is going to be great. I don't know. What did you think of it?
I loved it. I loved it because I thought it was a much darker, not darker, more truer tale. Instead of the typical Western, I felt you were much more deeper than I've seen before.
Yeah. It's got more edge. It's got some edge. It's a great story.
So I've seen the film, wonderful film. So when you first read the script, what was it about your character in the story that says, I really want to play in this movie?
I mean, for me, as soon as you mentioned Juliette Lewis's name and I saw that scene that was to come, the discipline scene without any spoilers, I was like, as an actor, sign me up. I got to do that. And, you know, every movie has a carrot. And so, like, doing that scene opposite her that was inevitably different every time and kind of got scarier and worse with each take was an absolute delight. And you come out the other side and you say, I just went on the boards, toe-to-toe with Juliette Lewis all night, and I lived, you know, so.
You too, Dilly, that scene was wonderful. Hard to watch, painful, but.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those experiences, and I was saying here, I think every actor should have a moment like that, where, I mean, she is she's a tornado, you know.
And the last question: how fun is it riding horses?
Love it. 100%. I mean, all I did was westerns, like movie in, movie out, and then I would be good. Yeah.